There we go, I can see ya.
There you are. Good morning.
Perfect, sorry about that, I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
What have you been up to this morning?
Well, got a lot of work done. I get up at 4:30 every day, so I usually get more work done by the time most people are leaving their driveway to go to work. So
That's pretty impressive.
my work day usually ends at about noon, and then um, my non-cutting hair work, and then I cut hair starting later in the day and do that into early evening, late afternoon.
Yeah. Do you record most of your videos in the morning?
It varies.
Yeah.
There's no specific time.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So I have a couple questions on masculinity. Thank you for talking to me last time too, and our conversation got me interested in this topic, and I'm kind of combining this with the NoFap thing for my documentary.
Yeah.
So can I just ask you a couple questions on masculinity?
Go for it.
All right.
Go for it.
Do you want to start out just by introducing yourself?
My name is George Bruno, also known as the Sultan of Silver in the hair industry, and built a great reputation worldwide in the hair industry, and have made the move about 5 years ago to work exclusively with men and no longer with women. And that turned into, for lack of a better term, a coaching business, because people who do hair, people who tend bar, have a tendency to listen to other people more than any other profession. So it's kind of like the double. It's a two-edged sword in the sense that someone sits in my chair, they can get their hair cut, and many times they'll ask questions, and then they end up finding answers from someone who's older, wiser, more experienced. And that role has grown to the point where I've actually become known worldwide for some of my opinions, attitudes, statements, and some of my writing and some of my videos. And that has led to a worldwide stage, a platform for me to communicate what masculinity is, what manhood is to the world, and to literally half the men in this world who are raised by single moms.
What spurred your decision to only work with men, and what was that about?
What I have found was I had to pump a lot of women up. Women come in to look pretty, they come in to look younger, and I found myself doing a lot of fake coaching with women, whereas men, let's say like if a dude is going bald, I can say, dude, and he's combing his hair over, or he's got thinning hair and just doesn't look good, and I feel freer, and men are more accepting to take the advice to look better, whereas women get insulted by advice. Men happily take the advice of someone who's an expert in the area of grooming and beauty.
Yeah. Was there any one situation that spurred the event? Or your stopping working?
The biggest thing was I made a move. I used to color my hair, and every time I saw a picture of myself or a video of myself, I said, Jesus, that looks so fake. And I wasn't prematurely gray. I went gray at about the time that many guys do. And it really popped pretty fast. I went gray quite fast. Within 1 year, my hair turned white, and my beard turned white, which was quite interesting. When I started coloring my hair, if I squinted my eyes, I looked younger. But if I looked at myself in a mirror, the way that I was, it just looked fake. It didn't look right. I looked like a caricature of myself, and I looked like I put shoe polish on my head and on my beard, and it just didn't look right. So when I became my more authentic self, and I started coaching women to ditch the dye and go silver and gray, you got to realize that about 65 to 70% of most salons' businesses are women's hair color. And I was just tired of helping people be fake. They might look beautiful. That's one way of looking at it. To me, I look at the colored hair and I think it looks fake. I can't give fake compliments and pump somebody up. So I work with a lot of beautiful silver, white, and gray hair women. And I didn't want to be up to my elbows in chemicals every day. You know, you see a lot of old barbers. My dad's 85 years old and he cuts hair every single day. You don't see 85-year-old beauticians, because usually by the time they're 50 years old, they're done. And when you ask them why they're retiring, they say, well, I've been working with chemicals for 30 years and standing on my feet. I'm like, now the truth comes out. So I didn't want to work with chemicals anymore. And I find that my career can be much longer if I'm not up to my elbows in chemicals every single day.
Yeah.
And barbers never want to retire. I would say most barbers don't. They want to cut hair until they can't cut hair anymore. And if it was their choice, they would die with their clippers in their hands. So
yeah, that's
and I don't believe in retirement. I believe retirement is a completely Western civilization type of thing. It's I think it's the worst thing that you can do. The three biggest causes of death are doctors, stupidity, and retirement. And if you have all three, you're going to die young. That's just the way it is.
What is masculinity?
Masculinity is the natural expression of being a male. It's natural. And it can be, if it's over-encouraged, you end up getting macho, which is just a caricature of masculinity. If it's under-encouraged or shamed, you end up getting for lack of a better term, a metrosexual man who doesn't know what to do with a penis and where to put it or who to put it in, and feels like he can be friends with women and not how can I put it, and not be content with the natural use of a man and a woman.
Do you, let's see. What are some of those ways that masculinity is expressed? What does that look like?
Well, it varies through the ages. Obviously, early man, it had more to do with hunting and gathering and providing a comfortable cave or a log cabin or some kind of shelter for his family. Now we don't have to do that. We're not fighting off wild animals. So masculinity is no longer expressed in going out and killing an animal and bringing it back and cutting it up, putting it on the fire. Masculinity is no longer expressed by that. But that falls into the category of provision. Men provide. It's as natural as breathing, sleeping, eating, and shitting. Men provide. That has been bred out of us. We don't think that now. Adolescence is prolonged. Men don't grow up until they're 30 years old. Many of our parents and grandparents were married at 18, 19, 20 years old. Our grandparents had rifles in their hands, our grandfathers did, and fought in wars and so forth when they were 20 years old. So what blows my mind is when I look at 20-year-olds now wearing pussy hats, rainbow vests, and protesting in the streets, I'm thinking that they are so mixed up, they wouldn't know a man if they tripped over him, and if they did, they're offended by a man. And I'm not talking about being macho. There's a difference. Macho is basically asshole. That's what it is. A man is a guy that can provide. A man is a guy that can prolong his species. A man is someone who can protect. And you don't see that anymore. You see men sitting in Starbucks with fucking onesies now. And, like, what the fuck? Whereas 50 years ago, those guys were in fucking foxholes with guns with bayonets on them. What I'm not being is an old prick that's saying, well, back in my day, we used to walk to school in our bare feet all uphill. And I'm not being like that kind of guy. What I'm saying is that men need to get back to being men and express their manhood and masculinity. It's gotten to the point with femininity and feminism, which is absolute cancer. Feminism is cancer. It's not empowering. It's not about empowering the woman. Feminism is about destroying a man. It's about not just evening the score, but destroying the man. So what happens is feminists are guilty of the very thing that they're saying about masculinity. They're saying, like, literally last year, there were books on and articles, New York Times, Washington Post, about toxic masculinity. This year there was a shift. Now they're saying all masculinity is toxic. So you see men acting more and more like women and not the natural expression of their maleness. And a lot of it has to do with being raised by single moms, which have completely, utterly fucking failed, because your single mom hated your father so much that she tried to breed out anything that reminded her of her ex-husband or of the father. So what happens is her version of masculinity is a kinder, gentler, more feminine, understanding boy. So we now have a generation, actually 2 generations, of boys that have grown up not knowing what a fucking man is, because they've only visited their dad every other weekends and Wednesday nights. And he tried to pack a week full of parenting into 2 days, actually a day and a half. And it's a fucking shame, because the judges and the courts, who I blame, are a huge blame for this, have ripped children out of men's arms, given them full time to a mother. And what happens is men have gone from being dads to just merely visitors. And visitors have very little impact on boys and girls' lives as they are growing up.
Yeah. Who taught you how to be a man?
My father. My father encouraged us hunting, fishing, lifting weights, judo, doing physical labor. When I started being interested in girls, he encouraged that. He encouraged me to start developing my body. I remember coming home and being very upset and almost being in tears the first time I ever broke up, or a woman ever broke up with me. And he taught me some of the value of stoicism and not living by my emotions. When you live by your emotions, you're up and down. Women live by their emotions. 100% of what women say and do is emotionally driven. Men have to be taught to be emotionally driven. That's why it's no longer 2 + 2 = 4. It's more, what do you feel about 2 + 2 = 4? That's more important. And I say, fuck that. 2 + 2 = 4. Shout it from the fucking mountaintops.
Yeah. What is the benefit of stoicism?
You get off the damn emotional roller coaster. Emotions are your enemy. For instance, if you're a dad and your first child is born, you can't help but cry. You see this life come out of the mom. It's just, I cried with all 3 of my children. When my grandparents died, I cried. There's a birth and death are good things. When I was engaged to my wife, tears came out of my eyes. When I was at the altar getting married, tears came out of my eyes. And those are certainly worthy of emotions. I'm not saying being a statue. Don't be made of stone, but be made of permeable stone. When shit goes down in life, people look to the man for order, to bring order to chaos, instead of looking around and looking for answers. The person who is non-emotional, I said this the other day to somebody, I forget if you've ever gone to a funeral, you see the guys in the black suits who work for the funeral homes just standing there and just absolutely unemotional. Everyone else in the funeral parlor crying their eyes out. Why? Because they're connected. The person in the casket. The people who are standing there, with the black suits on and, at the doorway and so forth, who work for the funeral home, they're not emotionally attached to the person in the casket. That's just another person. They have to understand why people are crying, and they are the ones that provide a rock, a sense of stability to the situation. And in every situation where there is drama, chaos, natural emoting, there is also a need for someone who is non-emotional, who is completely objective, who is strong, who is unattached. And I find that when you adopt some of the principles of Stoicism, you can handle life better. You can handle tragic phone calls better. If someone breaks up with you, or you go through some kind of problem with another person, most of the time it's our emotions that get us into trouble. And what's happened is men are naturally a little bit more stoic than women. Women literally just go up and down. Now women might disagree with this publicly, but when you talk to a woman privately, most women will tell you women are fucking crazy. Women will say that. Now, if a man says it, it's politically incorrect. And we're not here. I'm not talking to you because of political correctness. And you're not talking to me because of that. You're talking to me because of the truth.
Yeah. Is there any advantage in showing emotion?
Emotion is a natural response to joy or tragedy. It's a natural emotional response. For instance, if someone dies and you don't cry, we call it, you keep it bottled in. It's going to work its way out somehow, some way. And most of the time it works its way out in an unhealthy way. For instance, you're driving down the road, you're listening to a song, and all of a sudden the song touches you, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? This song is like bringing tears to my eyes. It's because there was something inside of you. There was a log jam, and that song accessed pain or joy or tragedy in you and brought it out of you. That's why there's the whole genre of breakup songs. When you go through a breakup, you listen to certain songs that empathize with you, that are about you missing the other person. Very rarely do we listen to songs that say, fuck you, I'm glad you're out of my life. I'm a better man because of that. I'm not going to fucking whine and cry. And you know what? Your fucking loss. Onward.
Yeah. What are situations where it's okay to show emotion?
Birth and death.
That's about it?
Marriage. Engagement. Those are big steps. Anything where there's a big step. Now, it takes more of a man to control his emotions than to be, there was this movement over the past 20 or 30 years, real men can cry. Fuck you. They don't cry. Real men don't fucking cry. Shit doesn't get done when men cry. Countries get fucking built because men don't cry. Things get done because men don't cry. Crying and emoting causes just squandering of time and pissing years away. Epictetus said, the great philosopher, Stoic philosopher, said, men are not disturbed by things, but by their opinions about those things, which he was basically talking about the emotions. So when a man is talking to his girlfriend and they're in a fight, and he says to her, you make me so angry. No, she doesn't. You let her make you angry. You allow that to happen. When shit hits the fan in life, people always look towards the man who is the most controlled. Every police officer will tell you when they go to a domestic dispute, as a third party who is not emotionally involved, their number one goal is to separate the man and the wife. Bring them in separate rooms. Take the man out in the backyard, take the woman in the front yard. Separate them. That diffuses some of the volatility of the situation and removes some of the emotions and gets to facts. It's facts, not emotions.
Yeah. How do we express sadness and various things? How do we get those out of our system?
I think another thing that's happened to us, we've allowed the creative elements to be squelched. I believe writing, poetry, filmmaking, music are great. The arts are a great expression of emotions. When I look at, I was thinking about one of my favorite bands is Rush. Very stoic. Rush does not make a breakup song. They are not, it is the most masculine music of ever. Heavy metal is very masculine as well. Some rap is very, very masculine, to the point where it gets a little macho and disrespectful of women. I know rap can, what I'm not into is calling women bitches. To me, there's no use for that. I have a daughter. I don't want anyone calling her a bitch or referring to her as a bitch. If I get married again, I'm not interested in referring to my wife as a bitch or anyone else. I think that is hyper masculinity. That's borderline urban macho, which is unnecessary, and it's very destructive. You can't have a positive, productive, healthy relationship with a woman if you have that kind of attitude.
Yeah. How do I become more stoic?
It's like the guy said, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. You practice stoicism by choosing not to react to things. And behavior that gets rewarded gets repeated, which means the more you do it, the easier it gets. If I start weightlifting today, or start doing chin-ups today, right now I can do, maybe 10 chin-ups. If I do 10 chin-ups a day, maybe next week I'll be able to do 11. The week after that, I'll be able to do 12. You build your muscles, and you do it through practice. And if a person is taught to be emotional for everything, it can only be practice that does it. You can't, and you have to make a decision to do it. For instance, if you want to get into shape, you got to make a decision to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be at the gym by 5:30. So it begins with that decision and then practice. So you can't just decide to be a stoic. You decide to be a stoic and then practice stoicism. Practice your opinions. You'll notice if you follow me on Twitter at George Bruno, there are people who will agree with me or disagree with me, and they start a tornado of negativity, and I shut that shit down like Negan. No exceptions. So my thing is this: hang with positive people, hang with people who can have a good time, hang with people who have each other's backs, but don't hang with people who are on an emotional roller coaster. It's never a good thing. Nothing good can come out of being on an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. What does practicing stoicism look like just in a day-to-day type thing?
I always say, if you don't have a list, you're lost. If you allow your feelings to control your day, you're screwed. Because I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like sending an email or creating some new copy for my list. I don't feel like doing anywhere between 7 and 20 tweets a day. Fuck your feelings. Do it. Just do it. It's all about action. And what happens is there's never any positive consequences that come out of how you feel. There's always consequences that come out of how you act and what you do. Action is is a great way to start practicing stoicism. And what happens is, with action, if the responses to your actions are not the ones that you want, you can tweak your actions and do something differently. You can't tweak feelings.
Yeah.
Feelings they're nebulous. They're just floating around in the air, but you can tweak action. That's why I say be a man of action and not a man of feelings.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would have a negative opinion of stoicism and say that you're like bottling stuff up and not able to express yourself. Do you think there's a certain line to ride with being stoic and also saying what you feel and acknowledging your emotions? Or
I think the phrase "there's a time and place for everything" applies here. I'm not saying be a rock, an impermeable statue made of granite. No man will ever get married or have a wife or a girlfriend if he is like that. But there are many men who will lose a wife or a girlfriend because they let it out. And what happens is letting things out in healthy ways. I remember as a kid, if you were a little hyper and a little, crazy in the house, your mother would say, "Go run around the block a couple times and get rid of that energy." See, parents knew that if you just went out and played a little bit, you would be fine. That just sitting in front of a TV, which when I grew up, there's only 3 fucking channels on the TV. Now there's 300. So, but I remember specifically, there were times when my mother actually unplugged, literally pulled the plug out of the wall, unplugged the TV, didn't even allow it to be turned on, and said, "Go out and play and be a child." So I think it's the expression, how you let things out. There are some people who working out is a release. There are some people who walking, running, yoga is a release to them. I know for me, I enjoy puffing on a pipe or smoking a cigar or reading classic literature. That's a great outlet for me, and it stimulates my mind as well.
Yeah. What do you do when you feel sad?
What do I do when I feel sad? I know one thing: I don't complicate the sadness by stupid actions. For instance, if you feel sad, stay away from alcohol, stay away from drugs. Because then you drink too much, you wake up feeling like shit, or you get in a car accident, guess what? Now you're a couple problems removed away from the original problem. Like Richard Cooper says, we are masters at 2 things. Number 1, complicating our lives. Number 2, justifying why we complicated our lives.
Yeah. What does it mean to be a man?
It's the expression of your biological imperative, which is protect, provide, earn, create, figure things out. We are meant to figure things out. I think what happens is, after many years of working with people, I know people, I have some paraplegics and some quadriplegics that are wheelchair bound, and one of the first things that they deal with is, how can I now be a man? I can't move. How can I be a man? I can't even move my fucking arms or my hands. How can I be a man? How does that person, are they given a pass? Are they no longer masculine? Are they no longer a man because they can't have sex? Because they can't attain an erection? Because they can't lift weights? No. My father, who is 85 years old, I could probably kick his ass right now. But does that mean he's no longer a man? No. Being a man is on a spectrum. I'm not the most macho guy in the world. I know guys who would do this interview who would be like, they'd be puffing out their chest, they'd be kind of like leaning in like this, and they'd be like, talking like in the faker deep voice, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not like that. I don't feel the need to put on any airs. I'm not macho. I'm not hyper masculine. I would rather whip your mind than whip your ass. So to me, a solid, real man uses this and this. When he can't use this, he uses this. This is what happens when you get older.
Yeah. Do you think there has been a change in what masculinity is in the last, 40 years?
No doubt. Just look at TV commercials. Men are pussies. They're goofy, bumbling, fucking idiots on TV commercials. Masculinity is so confused right now. It lost its compass a long time ago. And what they're saying is, well, it's not about being macho and all that. And I come back and say, it's not about that. It's not about being macho. It's about expressing your manhood. It's about expressing your manhood through your natural biological imperative. At certain seasons of a man's life, he's out hunting and gathering. At certain seasons of a man's life, he's attracting women. He's fighting off other guys. He's impressing the woman. When that stage is over with, he's raising children. He's raising offspring. When they're off and on their own and starting their own lives, the man now is left with his wife. He no longer has to game her or win her over. She's already, although I do believe game has to continue your whole life. You have to flirt and have fun and tempt your wife at all stages of life. But I think at different points in life, your biological imperative changes. Right now, my dad at 85 years old, his imperative is to stay healthy. Walk 2 miles a day, swim, ride a bike, sit on the couch holding hands with my mother is his way of manhood. Is he cracking walnuts all night and just banging the shit out of my mom all night? I doubt it. But is he any less of a man? No. Did he do that 40 years ago? Yeah. But is he any less of a man now? No, not at all. I believe the biological imperative changes at different seasons of our life. And I believe if you look at, spring, summer, fall, and winter, that's a perfect analogy for a man's life. I am now in the fall of my life, and I probably have another good 10 years before I come to the winter of my life. And I think I have expressed all of those seasons appropriately in my life, and I fought and resisted many of those seasons in my life. There was a point where I even resisted my own biological imperative, and there was a point where I used to brag about how many female friends I have, and I'm talking about women who I wasn't sleeping with, female friends, and it really occurred to me when I put on a new lens that there's something wrong with this. There's something wrong with this. I'm not one of those guys that says if you're not fucking her, you're just her girlfriend. I'm not going to be like that. Do I believe men and women can be friends? Yes. Do I believe that we can use our natural sexual attraction to kind of have fun and be flirty? And yes. When I look at people like John Aston and Carolyn Adams, Carolyn, I forget what her name is, from the Addams family, there existed a natural sexual chemistry between the two, although it never consummated. They never slept with each other. They allowed that natural attraction. If you ever watch the show The Addams Family, they're just constantly flirting. Well, that wasn't in the script. That was real. That was real. They allowed their natural biological imperative. She thought he was handsome and suave and dashing. He thought she was beautiful and sexy and feminine, and they allowed that dynamic to work. So if you want to see a real couple working that, watch something as silly and as simple as The Addams Family.
Yeah. I'm going to plug in my computer real quick.
Yep.
Right back. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay. Alright. Okay. Let's see. Do you think it's important for men to embrace their feminine side?
There was a joke that I heard where a guy said, I got good news and I got bad news. I finally embraced my feminine side. That's the good news. The bad news is it's a big fat lesbian. And I say that jokingly, of course, not trying to offend anyone. And rule number one is I'm not politically correct. Never politically correct. I'm a gentleman in mixed company, but in an interview where you want me to be honest about things, honest about life, not just give fucking opinions, men don't have a feminine side. The whole fucking yin and yang is created through a man and a woman. Yin and yang is not in you. So you don't have a man side, you don't have a female side. You have a man side. That's one of the biggest myths propagated in the past 40 years, is that we have a feminine side. There's no such thing as a feminine side in a man. That is an absolute fucking lie and a social construct.
Where do you think that lie has come from?
Women who are offended at masculinity, and men who are confused about their own masculinity. And I think what happens is men who don't like macho, I think macho men tend to be one of the reasons why macho men are pretty much insecure. Macho men are pretty much pussies with muscles. That's pretty much what it is. And now it's pussies with muscles and tattoos, because if you see someone covered with tattoos and they have a look on their face like this, you tend to stay away from them. They keep you at an arm's distance. There was a book in the 70s called Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am? I have that book. It was a New York Times bestseller. And it took about 150 pages to say this one thing. I'm afraid to tell you who I am because if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't like me. Everybody wants to be liked or loved or at least accepted. For those who put on the act and keep everyone at an arm's length through machismo, they're broken people inside. And they want you to think that they're tough. They want you to think that they're unapproachable, which is bullshit. I have everything from 1%ers, motorcycle gang guys sitting in my chair that I've cut their hair and trimmed their beards, to the most effeminate men I've ever seen in my life that if you had a blindfold on, you would think they're women when they're talking. And I'm not being judgmental in any way. So I've had a very broad spectrum of men that I've worked with for decades. And I think the whole concept of the feminine side is a fucking lame-ass excuse by men, number one, who don't want to step up to the fucking plate, and number two, by bitter women. Period. A boy is not a broken girl. I'll say that again. A boy is not a broken girl. I don't need to fix a boy by making him more feminine. I fix a boy by making him more masculine. That's what I do. That's what men do. That's what parents should be doing. You don't encourage your boys to play with dolls. You don't do it. Maybe G.I. Joes and little army men, but not little baby dolls and girl dolls.
Yeah. Yeah, what is the danger in that if your kids are, or how should you raise good men?
I have 3 children. I have a 21-year-old daughter, a 19-year-old son, and a 15-year-old son. My children have turned out to be respectful, honorable. They won't call you sir until you say, no, please call me Jacob. That's the way they were taught. That's number one. Respect for other people. They will keep their mouths shut, or as young children they did, while adults were talking. They saw their dad opening doors for their mom, taking her coat. My daughter, when she went on her prom, or whatever you want to call that, in school, she called me from the girls' room at the high school and said, Daddy, he brought me flowers, and he held the door for me. I said, that's good, honey. That's good. Sounds like a good young man. She couldn't wait to tell me that he was a gentleman with her. And it made me think that, okay, all the years that I was a gentleman and a proper man that my children observed before I was divorced, that sunk in. So I think that we teach our children through example. That's the first thing. I think that we need to expose them to a wide variety of experiences. I was telling someone yesterday, expose your children to soccer, karate, horseback riding, fishing, hunting, sports, arts, everything, and then they will naturally gravitate towards certain things. There's nothing worse than a parent taking a young man or a woman to a karate class and saying, you're going to learn karate, you little pussy, and you're going, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff doesn't work. You expose people to a wide variety of things, and then they end up naturally gravitating to the things that they're attracted to, things that work well with them. For instance, right now, when I think of interior design and hairdressing, both are things that I have done. But if you watch television, you would think every interior designer is gay and every hairdresser is gay. When I worked with women, I would, gosh, you look beautiful. Let me fix that. And I would fix her hair and blow dry and spray and do. You look magnificent. You look very feminine, very beautiful. You look younger than you are. I think that's a great style for you. The gay hairdresser, oh my God, sister, you look so beautiful. You know, that whole thing. Like, and now that has dominated the hairdressing and the interior design world. When I look at fashion design was owned by men when I was growing up. Tailors were men. People who created the most beautiful dresses on runways were men. Masculine men. Now, with television, you would think that it's only the effeminate men that are in interior design, hairdressing, fashion design. That's not the case. So what happens is media has an agenda that screams very loud once you put on the real lens of seeing what life is all about. And they're trying to shape our attitudes and trying to change what our natural biological imperative is. Some people like construction. Some people like fashion design. If your son sat around sketching dresses in a sketchbook all day, I would encourage that. That's fine. That doesn't mean, it wouldn't scare me if my son was sketching dresses all day in a sketchbook. That wouldn't bother me. I would help him. I would help him complete an apprenticeship or somehow shadow a designer where he can learn techniques and learn about fabrics and learn about design. That's fine. You don't have to change who you are to pursue those kind of careers. I say let's bring back all the traditional stuff. That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. What do you think is what do you think is the biggest sorry. What do you think is the biggest misconception about masculinity right now?
People are confusing masculinity with macho, which is basically, macho is an over-expression. It's a hyperbolic expression of masculinity, and that's where people get the concept of toxic masculinity from, is from macho assholes. Like I said, I am not the most macho guy in the world. I'm not an effeminate guy. I just basically have a natural expression that is not the most macho in the world. I know guys that are just so damn macho, and you can tell the real ones. When I look at some guys, I'm talking like your big muscled up dudes go through a breakup, they blubber like a little girl, because inside they weren't very macho, now were they? So I say, stick with your biological imperative, and you're going to be fine. Stay away from social media and how it defines masculinity, because there is an agenda in social media, and there's agenda in the media world. Watch TV, and take a pad of paper, draw a line down the middle, and every time you see a masculine man, put a check mark under masculine. Every time you see a feminine or effeminate man or a wimpy man, put a check on that side. By the end of the night, the effeminate, wimpy, beaten down side of the paper is going to have more check marks.
What?
So when you're exposed to that over the years, you're going to think that's what it is to be a man. But when you get out in the real world and you start seeing, when a man starts trying to attract women naturally, and I don't want to start getting into the alpha and beta talk, because there's people that will discount everything I say as soon as I say the word alpha or beta. I'm not into that. I understand it. There are people who talk about red pill and blue pill. There are people who have put me into their lists of red pill men. It's not red pill. Red pill is just a modern terminology for your grandfather. Your fucking grandfather was red pill. And I always say, unless your grandfather was a cross-dressing, makeup-wearing, cabaret-singing person, he was probably red pill. He dug the well in his backyard. He hunted for his food. He created children. He taught you how to clean a gun. He taught you how to fix things. But right now, the values of your grandfather, not you specifically, but just I say in general, the values of our grandfathers are generally, for instance, if your grandfather walked the earth today, he would be considered racist, homophobic, sexist. I mean, you name it. The values of your grandfather would be demonized today in 2018. And I say, let's get back to the values of your grandfather. And because I talk about effeminate men, some people say, well, you're a homophobe. Fuck you. I'm not a homophobe. Not at all. I don't hate people and their choices. I do not do that.
Yeah.
I'm into outcomes. How is it serving you? Are you living the highest and best use of your life and masculinity and biological imperative? That's the question I'll ask. It's up to you or whoever in the world to interpret whether that is what that is. Yeah.
What is wrong with masculinity in society today?
It's being perceived as being toxic. And like, for instance, in the men's, let's just talk about the men's men's movement. There's a spectrum. On this end of the spectrum, you have the MGTOW, which just means it's MGTOW. Men going their own way. Guys who say, I'm done with women. Fuck that. They're all the same. They're out to use me. All they want is money. All they want is they want a guy to look like a Hollywood model. All right, so you got those like douchebags on this one side. And I always say that MGTOW is a nice place to visit. Like if you go through a breakup, obviously you're going to be pissed off at women. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You're going to be upset. That's life. It happens to every man. But it's a nice place to visit, but you don't want to live there. You don't want to pitch a tent there. Don't build a house there. Okay? So you got MGTOW on this end, then you got pickup artists on this end, which just say, women are all for fucking. It's all about game. It's all about dominating. I don't like this, and I don't like this. I like this, right in the middle. Being able to, for instance, if you're a single guy, does every time you go out have to be about picking up and fucking bitches? No, that's stupid. I laugh when I see that. But it does mean having some game, and that's a popular word today, having game. And you want to, like, for instance, part of game is looking good. You don't want your breath to smell. You want your body to look good. You want to dress well. That's part of game. Using your natural male biological imperative to attract a woman. Putting yourself in a woman's path. Smiling at her, making eye contact with her. That's part of game. But avoiding and sitting around and playing video games in your home theater or in your bedroom and hanging out with the boys and going to Comic-Con and, getting into arguments about video games and all this kind of stuff, that's not a good way to live either. You have to get out.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is being in the middle is a beautiful thing that you can retreat to yourself. Like, for instance, if you go through a divorce or a breakup, it's normal to start thinking all women are the same. After a while, you kind of lose that, and you kind of get back into asking women out again. You need time alone. You need time to reflect. I'll never forget when I went through my divorce, there was a pastoral counselor that said to me, in time, you're going to realize the role that you played in the demise of your marriage. So it's not like, well, that bitch left me, is it all her fault? No, it takes two to tango, which means that I contributed to some of that divorce, if I'm honest with myself. In the very beginning, I did not see that. So everything was her fault, and I was a victim. I didn't start growing until I stopped playing victim and realized the role that I played in the demise of my marriage. And then what happened, and I stayed away from women for a while. Like, fuck that, they're all the same, they're, whatever. And then I went to the other side, and I was fucking bitches, left and right. Let's go out and fuck some bitches. Like, all right, that's stupid. I was gray hair at that time, too, so how stupid does it sound for a gray-haired guy to say, let's go fuck some bitches? I don't want to do that either. I'm not interested in that. I dated a lot of women, and it was, at times, a revolving door on my apartment, and I remember pulling the blonde-haired girl's hair out of my hair, because when women use your bathroom, they use your shit. Let's get real. They look in your cabinet, and they use your brush, and they do that on purpose. Do not kid yourself, okay? So you go in your bathroom, all right, and the blonde girl is just like brushing her hair with your brush. So there's long blonde hair in your hairbrush. A couple nights later, there's the brown hair girl, and she goes, whose hair is this in your brush? I'm like, son of a bitch. And I remember in between women trying to remove traces of those women so the next woman wouldn't see, the hair or evidence of another woman in my house somehow, some way, whether it be panties hanging on the back of a doorknob where you didn't see it. Can you imagine a girl walking out of your bathroom going, now whose are these? And You don't want that happening, but you don't want to be ashamed of that either. It's like, hey, I'm a single guy. I've got a life. That's the way it is. Yeah. Rather than making excuses, a guy goes up and asks a girl out, hey, I think, I would love to take you out sometime. Get together for some drinks. Maybe we can get together sometime. She goes, oh, no, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. The guy goes, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Why are you fucking apologizing for being a fucking man? This is what you do. Here's my number. If things don't work out with him, just give me a call anytime.
Yeah.
Guess what? When shit hits the fan in that relationship with her boyfriend, who will she be calling or texting? You. That's how it works. That's what being a fucking man is. Not apologizing for being a man. Man game, men go and get. Never apologize for going and pursuing a woman. Simple as that.
Yeah. How do I be a man?
Follow your natural biological imperative, which is not listening to your social upbringing, ignoring the social constructs, doing the opposite of what the media and social media say, and having role models. If I want to learn karate, if I'm a white belt, number one, and want to become a black belt in karate, I start hanging out with black belts. I don't hang out with judo guys or Tai Chi guys. I hang out with karate guys with black belts. What I would do is link into the men's community, and I'm not saying macho, because there's always going to be some fucking douchebag who's going to say, I knew it, I knew he was finally going to get to that point. I'm not getting to that point. What I'm saying is have positive male role models. And that doesn't mean you have to become an asshole. Many people think like, the advice is instantly going to be macho. It's not true. So a good place to start would be taking care of your body. I always tell people the holy trinity of handsome is hair, teeth, and skin. Take care of your hair, take care of your smile, take care of your skin. Then take care of your body. If you have a softer body, rounder body, a body that is not muscular, and I'm not talking about being a fucking bodybuilder either. Hit the gym 2 to 3 times a week. Ask questions. Ask things like that. Don't be afraid. Even to this day, I will ask people as I've noticed changes in my body because I'm closer to 60 than 50. I don't have that 25-year-old body anymore with huge shoulders and big pecs and biceps. I used to have all that. I don't anymore. It's not a priority to me. But I will say this, that as I've gotten softer, literally softer, and older, I find that getting back in the gym for me makes my muscles defy gravity a little more, makes me a little bit harder to touch, to the feel. For instance, I was with a good friend who was a little softer and rounder, more than a couple pounds overweight. We're at my favorite bar watching a band, and women were walking by, and I was there in a polo shirt, looking good, hair groomed. It was before I had like the scruff. I just had a nice thin goatee. This is about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Every woman that was walking by was making eye contact with me. A couple were hanging on my shoulders and were saying, ooh, like, you got some shoulders there, buddy. And the average douchebag would have left his friend high and dry. And my goal that night was to hang out with my friend, who I went to college with, and hang out with him, and not be like, sorry, man, I'm taking this chick home, or I'm going home with her. I was there with my buddy, so I was literally turning women down all night from about the age of 25 up to about mid-50s, all night long. And I'm not macho. I like to make eye contact. I like to smile. I like to be friendly. I've always said, if you want to be good with women, be the friendliest person in the room. Most men think you got to be the biggest asshole in the room. Now, do some women like bad boys? Yes, but bad boys can smile too. There's a difference between being a friendly guy and being a nice guy. Nice guys end up in the friend zone. Nice guys end up going home at night and playing video games and watching YouTube videos. So I say find some good role models. Go out places. Look at the guys who are already a success. No, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Look at men who are already succeeding in what you want to do and what you want to be. And I say this to all men. And emulate what is already working. There's no need to reinvent it.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice. Last two questions. What do you think is the biggest misconception about masculinity?
Right now in 2018, that it's toxic. It's not toxic. Masculinity saves lives. If you're in Chipotle and someone comes in and starts shooting, and everyone is taking cover and getting shot like fucking rabbits on a hunting trip, and you grab a chair and your attitude is, I'm running towards the chaos, and this motherfucker is not going to just shoot me like a fucking rabbit, and you go after that motherfucker does not expect. That's why there's school shootings and all these public shootings. They do not expect people to resist because they know people are lame, fucking, weak, sitting ducks. Am I saying carry a gun? No. You can, and you certainly have the right to, and I encourage it, to legally own firearms and be trained in such. That's your constitutional right, and carry a concealed weapon. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually quite a good thing. I know when I date women, they say to me, I feel very safe with you. If you've ever seen my video called Can Men and Women Be Friends, I would encourage you to look that up on YouTube. And What is a True Gentleman? That's a video that I did on YouTube with a friend of mine. We're both in our 50s, female friend. And I discussed, can men and women be friends? And one of the questions I asked her, I said, when we are out and about, do you feel safe with me? She says, absolutely. Absolutely. I said, can you tell and this is a woman who's out dating. I said, can you tell on a first date if you're going to be safe with a man? She says, I can tell. Just like that.
Yeah.
So, masculinity is not toxic. Masculine men naturally seek out solutions, whether it be someone assaulting people in a public place. Shooters and assaulters do not expect resistance. A real man will resist and become a hero. Wasn't there something in the some dude walked into like a fucking pancake house and started shooting people, and there was like one young black dude that said, fuck this, you're fucking not going to get away with it. He went after the guy, like, bullets. And he went after the fucking guy and fucked him up. I think he even got shot in the arm, too. You know what? That's biological imperative. That motherfucker is a hero. That's the guy who you need to do a interview with right there. He said, fuck that, I'm not going down like this. I'm not a fucking sitting duck, and you're not going to get away with this. So we're not used to that. We're not used to men stepping up to the fucking plate. We're not used to it. We're used to men cowering. I dated a gal. We were watching TV. I may have told you this story in our other interview. And we heard something. I was at her house. We're watching TV. The fireplace is going. It's kind of a romantic night. And we heard something outside the front door in front of the house, this noise. And she was like scared. And at the time, I was not carrying my pistol. I ran over to the fireplace, grabbed the fireplace poker, and ran out the front door. And I always carry a flashlight. My flashlight was already out and on. And I was looking in the bushes in the front yard, ready to go to battle. It was a raccoon climbing up a bush, scratching on the front window. So, and it ran off into the distance. I come back in the house and she's like, I can't believe you did that. And I said, did what? She says, I can't believe you just grabbed the fireplace poker and ran outside. I said, yeah. She says, my ex-husband would be hiding behind the couch calling 911. Who do you think a woman will feel more comfortable with? A man who's discovered his feminine side, or a man who steps up to the plate? Just being a man alone, you don't even have to do anything. You just have to be a man. Women are men detectors. They know a pussy when they see one. They know a man when they see one.
Yeah. What do you think are the positive attributes? What are some positive attributes of masculinity, and what are some negative ones?
I don't think there's any negative. There's no downside to being masculine. There's only positive. Masculine is what you are biologically. You are not a fucking mistake, and you are not a broken woman. So your initial instincts are right on target. When you grab the chair and go after the shooter, go after the assaulter, that's being a man. When you hide underneath the table, that's being a broken woman or a broken man. You do not listen to what social constructs say are a man. So the upside of being a man, shit gets done, women get won over, bullies get their asses kicked, companies get started, money gets made, wars get won, people get liberated. When men are masculine, society benefits. When they're macho, society, you end up with Chicago. You end up with Detroit, of little boys being raised by their mothers, holding their guns like this. You know, like this, where guys hold, they hold it like the fucking gangster bullshit. Okay? That's bullshit. That's macho bullshit. That's why Chicago has more murders than any other city in the country. Same thing with Detroit. Because of macho bullshit. Nothing gets done. Nothing gets solved. Lives get taken. Nobody makes money. Everyone suffers on every end. There's nothing but tears and sadness and chaos.
Yeah.
So as far as downside, there's no downside to masculinity. Zero downside. None at all. You're not a broken girl. You don't need to be fixed.
Kind of wrapping up, what advice do you have for young men like myself that are trying to figure out what it means to be masculine?
It's the same advice that I would have for my son who is 19 and my son who is 15. Seek out role models. You know, like, in other words, you know an asshole when you see one. You don't have to. Assholes basically reveal themselves with their words and their actions. You'll know masculinity when you see it. And a truly masculine man doesn't have to prove his masculinity. He just is. His masculinity just flows. So, look for people and associate with people who just are. They're not trying anything. Who are relaxed and comfortable with their natural biological expression of being a man versus trying to be macho. I think the most natural expression of being a man is when you see a man that is comfortable in his own skin and is intellectually curious. Curious as far as fitness is concerned. Curious as far as solutions are concerned. Starting a company, recovering from setbacks, being resilient. Those are hardcore masculine qualities. And that you're not getting set back with your emotions. Show me a man who who realizes that emotions have a time and place, not to eliminate them, but who doesn't run his life by emotions, and I'll show you a man.
Yeah. Do you think, is there anything that you feel like talking about on this topic that I haven't asked?
I think there's a wide range of, let me put it this way to your viewers. I am not the epitome of masculinity. I am one of many expressions. I'm not saying be like me. And I'm not saying if you're not like me, you're a pussy or something like that. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not the most macho guy in the world. But I'm not effeminate either. I think there is something to be said for being in the middle. You don't have to be more like a girl to relate to women. You don't, which a lot of young men believe they have to act more effeminate in order to gain women, when actually the opposite is the truth. Do not confuse masculinity and macho. Macho is negative, masculine is positive. But there's a wide range, there's a spectrum of masculinity. Have you had a chance to talk to Richard Cooper yet?
Not yet. We're still working out of time.
Richard Cooper is, I believe he's 45. He's a good man, a trusted friend. And he's smart, masculine without being macho. He's a gentleman. I've spent time with him at the men's conferences, and as a friend, going back and forth with him on the phone. But he is a guy that is on the spectrum, pretty damn manly. You know, I talk about weightlifting. I'll say weightlifting. His way of saying weightlifting is you pick shit up and you put it down. That's what he calls weight. And to me, it's funny. I laugh when I hear him say that. He's like, if you want to be a dude and learn to be more masculine, you got to get to the gym and pick up heavy shit and put it down. That's not my way of describing weightlifting. That's his way, and it works for him. And his audience loves it when he says, pick up heavy shit and put it down. My audience doesn't do that, which shows you the wide spectrum of masculinity. But then again, I've got about 15 years on him. Somebody who's got 15 years on me would be like 75 years old. And their version of masculinity would be different than mine, because I lived through a different era. I like to echo some of Richard's stuff by helping people to realize this: to be the best version of yourself, which means to take care of yourself. When you talk to him, he's going to talk about being the best version of yourself. And that means if you drive a certain cars have a fuel requirement that you use, kind of like high octane fuel, to run optimally. If you put in regular gas, it's not going to run properly. You have to put in the fuel that the manufacturer recommends in order for that car to run optimally. Men are the same way. If you feed a man the proper fuel, he's going to run properly. When you put shit in his mouth and in his head, he's not going to operate efficiently. He's not going to be the best version of himself. There's a difference between sugar and equal. Or what's the other one? What's the pink packet that a lot of people tear open?
Yeah.
Sweet and low.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a difference between sugar and sugar substitutes. sugar does have a nutritional value. It really does. It gives you energy. Our bodies run on sugar. They convert carbs to sugar. They can't convert a sugar substitute to energy. And what's happening is we've been given masculinity substitutes that are empty calories. They serve no purpose. Ingest the real thing. Read books by people like Rollo Tomasi, The Rational Male, one of the best books a man could read. Read books on masculinity. Read books on how to operate in society. Read books on being a warrior in business. Because most men are so confused today, they wouldn't know a man if they tripped over him. As a matter of fact, we're at the point now in society where people are offended, because that's the new strategy. Let's get offended at everything. People get offended when they see a real man, and they think it's like an alien.
Yeah. Can you talk just briefly why is masculinity important?
It fulfills your role in life. Masculinity is important because shit gets done when you are masculine. Period. The highest and best use of your life, if you're a man, is to be masculine. You are the best version of yourself when you are masculine. And don't buy the sugar substitute of having a feminine side or being a kinder, gentler man. There's nothing wrong with being full throttle masculine. Not to be confused with macho.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really good. That's all the questions I had. So,
Excellent.
Yeah, I really appreciate you talking. Sorry I was a little late. That was my bad. I was having computer troubles. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, make sure you get over to Richard sometime.
Yeah.
He has a very unique way of communicating. He is, like I said, about 15 years younger than me, so he grew up in a different era, and his take on things are a lot different. And after, if you're interested in more information on this, I can give you even more people to interview and to talk to. But it's a great journey, and a lot of what's happening is these talks about masculinity are saving men's lives. They're not living by their emotions. They're not killing themselves with alcohol. They're not hanging themselves. They're not putting guns to their head. Honest, open talks about masculinity save lives.
Yeah, I believe that. I can definitely see that.
You follow me on Twitter?
I don't have a Twitter.
Okay.
I don't have a Twitter. But I can plug your Twitter in at the end of the documentary too.
Beautiful. Tell me about your documentary.
Yeah, well, the NoFap one is pretty much all done. And so I'm trying to decide. I have most of my interviews for my masculinity thing. I haven't gotten my interview with Richard. But if I can't interview him, then you're my last interview for this thing. And hopefully I'm gonna have it all edited and done this weekend. And I think I'm gonna make them two separate deals, but kind of hand in hand.
Yeah.
But I've talked to people on both sides. A lot of people on the left, like professors at universities around me, and then I've also talked to some like anti-feminist, male rights advocate type people. Yeah, it's just been really interesting.
Yeah, you really do have the potential of creating a runaway hit. You know that, right? When you do something on I think your research on masculinity has explosive potential, even more than NoFap. Absolutely explosive, because it's such a hot topic and so controversial. right now. I think it could be a viral hit. Make sure I get links to everything as well.
Yeah, okay. I'll definitely send you, and I'll link all your channels and stuff in the description and everything.
Yep, exactly. But I really think your work on masculinity, I'm dead serious. It could be a freaking viral hit and encourage you to go even deeper and do on-site, in-person interviews and riding along with a truck driver, riding along with a guy who is a mason and laying brick, spending a couple hours with a barber, spending a couple hours with a mechanical engineer, spending time with an entrepreneur. I think, honestly, I see the potential in this. I don't know if you do, but I think it can be like insanely viral, and this could be massive for you. This could be such a career-changing thing for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I went down to this weekend. There was like a big Ford V8 meetup, and so I went down and talked to these people, and they all have like booths and stuff, and they're just selling old like vintage. I don't know. It's like just a really like man's man type thing. And I went down and I talked to a lot of people down there, and that was really interesting. Yeah. That was just like, it seems like everyone has such different opinions on it, but I've really enjoyed listening to everyone's, and it seems like there's a lot of valuable information there, and that I just haven't gotten exposed to like at all. Like I haven't really. That's just never really been a prevalent conversation on anything on like YouTube or on any circles that I run in, and so it's been really great to learn and talk to people.
Yeah, I think like for instance, like did you ever see the Red Pill movie?
No, I've seen reviews on it, but I haven't watched the actual movie.
Here's the weird thing, is that even the phrase red pill is cool amongst red pill people.
Mm-hmm.
The whole concept of alpha males and beta males, that resurgence, the whole concept of cucks. Oh, he's such a fucking cuck, or like this stuff. These beta boys, soy boys.
Yeah,
that's the kind of language, that gets it will be polarizing. That's why I try not to do red pill talk, beta boy, soy boy. I don't do that kind of stuff. I'm more of like the Clint Eastwood school, where he talks about the pussification of America. So that's kind of like my reference. But I think when you use those buzzwords, I think what happens is you instantly create enemies. And it's open, honest dialogue. And you're a filmmaker without using alpha, beta, red pill, blue pill, cuck, soy boy, all that stuff. I find that you're going to have a really, really strong audience that agrees with you. And one of the ways of becoming an expert in something is to establishing yourself as an expert in something. So even transcribing our interview using some editorial license, selective editorial license, and creating a blog with a transcript. I mean, this right here, what we did today, could easily be 5 blog entries.
Yeah.
No questions asked. And because of that, you establish yourself as an expert. And experts are go-to people. So what happens is you make your movie. Tell me about what will be the name of your movie on masculinity?
I haven't thought of a name yet. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Here's the deal. You send the links to talk radio posts. It goes viral. You get yourself on Tucker Carlson in the evening. How old are you right now?
21.
Shit, I mean, you would be... See, right now, surf is up for a 21-year-old who is schooled on this stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You're talking to... I'm known worldwide for my stuff. Richard Cooper is known worldwide for his stuff. When you get all of that wrapped into one product, you're going to have one hot product, and there are going to be talk show hosts that want you on.
That'd be really
There's going to
great.
be TV show hosts. I mean, this could be a whole career for you. You have no idea. I mean, the next few years, I could be saying, I know Jacob Larson.
Well, I think you're definitely right about that it's really smart to avoid language like, yeah, like cucks and like red pill and stuff like that, just because it's like so just brings up such a like adversity in people that aren't with it. Or and like I've been trying to, I don't, and I could be wrong-minded in this, but I've been trying to avoid people talking about feminism at all in in all my interviews, just because it's not. I know it goes hand in hand, masculinity and femininity, but it's like
Yeah.
it's people are gonna be. It just seems like just a distraction to talk about feminism when I'm trying to figure out what masculinity is. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
There are plenty of people, like, there are plenty of people who are kind of charging forward with that topic. And I would rather have you talk about what something is versus what something isn't. If
yeah,
that makes any sense.
yeah,
And you never build an argument by putting down an opposing side. You build the virtues of your topic and then let the viewing audience decide for themselves. But be a lawyer and create a fair preponderance of evidence,
yeah,
moving in a direction of where you want it to go. So, are you a filmmaker or are you a journalist? Are you a activist filmmaker, or are you truly an objective documenter of oddities?
Yeah.
What I don't want to do is end up being in a film of oddities, like in 2 months, if I'm in a movie by Jacob Larson called Extreme Points of View. Yeah, it's like because I don't feel like I'm extreme
yeah,
in any way, and I've raised 3 successful children, so like I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and my clientele, the people that I work with. If you go to my YouTube channel, Gray Bailey, and you look at the comments, one of the things that they say about Richard Cooper is that he's the father that they never had. What they say about me is I'm the grandfather that they never had. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll take that.
yeah. That's a good compliment. Definitely take that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you talking today, and last time. You've just been really supportive. It's been awesome.
If I can help again, or if I can, if you have any, if you want to add anyone else to it, if you want a different, like Richard and I are the same but different, and there's about a dozen other guys where they have different perspectives than I do, but they would all agree with me. But their way of communicating those things is, there's some guys when you talk to them, it sounds like it's like the He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Yeah.
And I never want to come off as like hating women. I love women. I love the charm of a woman. I love the softness and the curves and the mystique of a woman. And it's worth pursuing at all costs.
Yeah.
Or at many costs, not all costs. And one of those costs is not your life. And you never pursue anyone to the point where your mental health is affected. So, and that's another beauty of Stoicism.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you were, of everyone that I talked to, and I talked to some pretty, like, pro-masculinity type people, but you were the only one that did not buy into at all the embracing your feminine side, which I thought was really interesting, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
because we don't have one. We don't have a feminine side, and I'm not going to pretend that something exists just to make other people feel better. We have we're born masculine, period. And rather than saying that there's a feminine side, I would much rather say there is a masculinity is on a continuum.
Yeah.
And it's expressed in different ways.
Yeah. I think I was having a hard time with that too, like just when I feel like it's just a way that they talk about it, like there's not saying there's an actual feminine side and masculine side in girls, but I think they're just saying, like, I don't really know what the purpose of it is in using that language, because it seems like they're just like, oh, embracing your feminine side is being more empathetic. I don't know why they need to say that that's embracing your feminine side or versus just acting more empathetic, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like they're putting a label onto it. And I don't know, yeah. I'm not sure why they choose to talk about it that way, but it's interesting.
Societal pressure and social constructs is really it.
Yeah.
If there wasn't social media or television, literally half of the people who are talking about feminine sides would not be talking about that. It's not. That is a thing that's plagued men for the past 40 years. Is the whole concept of your feminine side. It's bullshit.
Yeah. What do you think is the danger of that? What's the negative?
You're not being the best version of yourself. You're not putting the proper fuel in you. We move in the direction of our most dominant thoughts. If you think you have a feminine side, you're going to move in that direction, and you'll act feminine. And you'll think there's a time to turn on and off the feminine. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
You're a man. You're a man. You can't always be a hunter. For instance, if you're on a date with a woman, you can't be a hunter if someone starts shooting the movie theater that you're in with that girl. Then you can step up to the plate. And that's a man's natural response to chaos, is to create order and create it quickly in emergency. When shit hits the fan, people look to the masculine man for order. Never forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's smart. Yeah, and I appreciate it. Yeah, you have a really interesting, good perspective on it. So it's great to talk to you.
Yeah. All right, Jacob.
All right.
Good spending time with you. Send me the link to your film when you're done.
Okay.
If you need more information, I'm happy to do it. And if you need more faces and people and opinions, like I said, the best one that I can come up with right now would be Richard. He's phenomenal.
I have emailed him. I've only gotten his just like his auto response. I haven't gotten him to actually respond back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've when you initially contacted me for this particular meeting, I actually sent Richard a text, and I said, "Did Jacob get a hold of you yet?" And I'm not. A couple texts came in, and while we were talking, and I'm not sure what he has to say.
Okay.
But what I can do is do whatever you can to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
I think you're going to find him a nice balance, and he's a little more aggressive. He's a little more in your face, but he's intellectual enough for you to show this film in a university setting and not be a comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there are certain guys where, if you only interviewed like Hulk Hogan kind of guys, that it would end up being a comedy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you ended up interviewing guys who were like, I'm tired of these fucking soy boys, brother. Then it would just be. Then we deserve all that we're going to get. But I think if we handle it in a calm, intellectual manner, speak the truth, never be afraid to speak the truth resonates with people. And if you do it non-emotionally, then it resonates even more. Because what happens is, if you do it emotionally, then people will reject and resist the emotions and not the content. And we want the content to go forward, not our emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
All right, man.
All right.
Good chatting with you.
Thanks, you too. God bless you. Thank you so much for talking.
Pleasure, sir. Take care.
All right, you too.